Good Lord. How's everybody doing tonight? I guess this was a good night to be doing a live, and I guess brings the good people out. By the way, my name's 12 Gauge. Welcome to my channel, 12 Gauge Investigative. So let me say hello to the people that are in the chat. Allie Brooks, PKC, Soulchild, Rondi, Aquarius, and hopefully some other people will come into the chat as time permits. As you can read, it says Reboot, Criminal Intent, Idaho 4. What I want to do tonight is I was looking at something that I did a while back. Actually, this is 9 months ago. But you're going to get a chance to see a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of speculation, and a little bit of questioning by 12 Gauge. He is I, and I am him. Slim with the tilted brim. Anyways, y'all don't know nothing about that, do y'all? Y'all have no idea what I just said. Does anybody in chat know what I was just talking about? He is I, and I am him, slim with the tilted brim. Y'all know what that comes from? Let's see if y'all know. I bet y'all don't know. I'm going to go ahead and start this. It's going to talk a little bit, and then I'll talk about what 12 Gauge is talking about. I'll fast forward if he's long-winded in here. So hold on a second. Can y'all hear that okay? Hope everybody's having a wonderful Monday. If it isn't wonderful for you, I hope it gets better for you. Because it's not always great for some people, but you make the best out of what you have. Here we go.
There's also been speculation about the motive here. Some say, well, maybe he got dissed by one of the victims here, but the diss doesn't mean that he was dissed to date somebody and she didn't want to. It could also be a diss to him because of who he is. It could be anything, couldn't it, Julie Renderman?
Right. And remember, motive, they're not required to prove motive, but motive is certainly helpful for a jury to understand why it would be that an individual who hadn't committed such a heinous crime before entered into a home and decided to take the lives of these young women and man. But I do think that the prosecution is going to have a theory that they're going to bring along with them throughout this case in terms of his motive, whether it be stalking or obsession or whatever it is in regards to at least one of the women that live there. And I think that is going to be something that you are definitely going to hear about throughout the trial.
Okay, as you heard her say, a motive doesn't have to be proven in a trial, which is correct. I put up here, let's talk about criminal intent and motive. Criminal intent is basically the theories of how you intend to carry this out. In this case, it was speculated that he intended to carry out his crime because he was stalking these individuals on social media. So his motive would have been, since I'm stalking these people on social media, Which one am I infatuated with? Which one am I lusting after? Which one has rejected me? Which one has caught me stalking them if I am stalking them? So the motive is based on the intent. And there's one thing that hasn't really been proven due to the gag order, and a lot of creators haven't really talked about it, has been the criminal intent. If they have, I haven't heard about it. So if you have, kudos to you. I know y'all been doing this a long time, longer than me. I haven't had this channel very long. So not putting down any creators or any commentators. Um, but think about how you would intend to get your life from one dimension to the other. Because he had a successful career as a student going on. I mean, he was getting degrees and he was advancing his studies. He was about to be a doctor, he was about to get a doctorate, his PhD, where he could have been a professor, he could have been somebody that wrote books, he could have been in the field, he could have been this, that, and the other. One thing I never really hear about, and I want to talk about this a minute, is the age of Mr. Koberger. Okay, hold that
He's
thought, 12 gauge. All right, I'm gonna show y'all something because there's a lot of people that are always confused because we throw up stuff all the time. We talk about certain things and we never define it. Okay, so let me tell you what criminal intent is. This is known as mens rea. It's the mental state of a person when they commit a crime. It's important for determining how much responsibility someone should take for their actions and what punishment they should receive. There are several types of criminal intent, and they go down the list. There's general intent. The perpetrator knowingly commits a crime but doesn't intend the consequences. Like if I go in here to rob you, but I don't intend on killing you, then that was my general intent to go in to rob you. Specific intent, just the perpetrator knowingly commit the crime and intends the negative result. So he knows that if I go in here to rob you and I happen to kill you or beat you up, whatever, I know what the negative results are going to be. There's transferred intent. The perpetrator intends to commit a crime against one person, but accidentally commits it against someone else. So, was this a transferred intent? Did this individual go in there to kill one person, but accidentally ended up killing three more? Because we're always talking about Ethan and Dana being collateral damage. Was this a transferred intent? Strict liability. The act is a crime by its nature, and the perpetrator doesn't need to intend to commit. For example, statutory rape is a strict liability offense. Recklessness, the perpetrator deliberately acts despite knowing the risk. Recklessness is a lower level of culpability than knowingly. So there are the intents. And that's what I'm talking about here is the differences in an individual going to commit a crime. Because you hear all this stuff all the time, or maybe you don't. Mens rea is the mental state. So mens rea is the mental state of the person when they commit a crime. And then there's the intent. So next time that you hear that stuff, you'll know exactly what they're talking about. That way you can say, hey, I learned that on 12 gauge. 12 gauge was talking about the mental state about an individual and the intent of them committing a crime. If you don't really learn it, I mean, that's up to you. It's. So that is the difference. So that's what 12 is talking about here in a minute. He's going to talk about the age of the perpetrator, and then he's going to go on from there. And this is a psychological kind of profile stuff, so it's not really talking about any specifics until the end. And then I start really asking a lot of questions. Well, here we go. Hope you are enjoying this so far. 28 years old. And if you're watching this, well, he's not 28 anymore. He's probably 29 or even close to pushing 30. Um, think about when you were 28 years old. Would it have been logical for you to intentionally have a crush on a 21-year-old? That's 7 years. What would they have in common with you? How would you have been able to maneuver that? You know, okay, chat, why don't y'all be interactive and answer that question for me? If you're 28 and you have a crush or an infatuation with a 21-year-old, what would y'all have in common? What would y'all have in common? Please write this in the chat. Give me your best thoughts on this. What would this individual and one of the victims have in common? You're all right. You're okay. Can anybody put that in the chat, please? Because that's the question I just asked. What would they have in common? Because that goes along with the mental state of the person who could or could not be responsible for this crime. Because the mental state is going to tell you a lot about the culpability of being able to commit this and the intent that goes along with it. So if I was 28 and you were 21, what would we have in common? I was going toward my doctorate. You were at 21, you're about to finish college. What could we possibly have in common? Okay, let me put some of these up there. There's nothing, there's not a wrong answer. I would think since he's into criminology and Kaylee was into true crime because she followed some of the channels that they may have had in common with her. Okay. Not very much if the person is in school. Sex. Okay. Usually the age gap like that, they don't know. Well, that's where I want you to take your mind because in order to present something in court, when you're going to define whether this person is capable of culpability when it comes to a mental connection to one of the victims, we've already heard there was no stalking. So I don't want to get into that whole rigmarole. I don't even want to go there, okay? I've heard that. I'm not naive to the case. This isn't my first live on the Idaho 4K, so please don't put all that stuff in here. You know, we've already heard that. I'm going a little deeper. So I'm saying, you know, if your mental state is to be attached to this group of people, you don't know them, but yet they are a person of interest to you, what could you possibly have in common with them at 28 and they're 21 years old? Let's look at their differences for a second before I start the video. Hey Jeff, how you doing? Some of their differences, okay? Brian, as far as we know, was not a partier. He wasn't a person that went to the bars. The only thing we heard about Brian, as far as him being social, is the place in Pennsylvania where he used to go and drink a couple beers. Okay, so did he outgrow that? Did he go to the bars in Moscow or Pullman? Did he do any of that? Okay, so the 21-year-old were doing this. They were having house parties. Was he ever invited to any of these parties? Whoever the perpetrator could have been, were they ever invited to this party? So when you're outlining the mens rea and when you're outlining the intent, these are some of the things that you ask yourself. It's how do these pieces fit together? Because we're trying to say that this individual went into this home for a specific reason. If he didn't go into this home to party, if he didn't go into this home to have sex, if he didn't go into this home to abduct, If he didn't go into this home to sell drugs or use drugs or any of that, what was the intent of the individual even getting out of his car, walking into that home? And that's the question that I have for you. But let's hear what 12 Gauge has to say. At 28, I was still pulling 19, 20, 21, 22-year-olds. Yeah, right. Obviously, I didn't have this going on. I didn't have, gosh, a lot of things that the life and age brings upon you. But one thing that you have to notice, that him being successful at his criminal studies, he had to have a type. And I've talked about stalking in the video that I created, I think yesterday. These are all starting to run together, but it happens. He had to have a type that he was either attracted to or fixated on and became obsessive over. Which one was it? Was it even the females? And I'm not trying to be funny here. I'm not trying to be funny. There's nothing to say that he wasn't attracted to Ethan. And that's a silly theory. I know it is. There's nothing to base it on. There's no interaction with him that people have spoke about. There's no kind of communication that we know about. But people immediately assumed that he was an incel, that he was stalking one of the females. What if that's not the case? What if his object of affection, his intent, was to show one of the other females who lived what type of person he really was? Like maybe they had a problem with the roommate that were murdered. You hear that word maybe? That's speculation. That's speculation. Possibly. Okay, I've said this before. Obviously, I was saying it right there. Maybe the intent wasn't towards infatuation or even having a romantic interest in one of the girls that he murdered. Do y'all not believe that, maybe he had a crush on one of the surviving roommates? And he possibly could have, you don't have, just because you have a boyfriend, they don't live there. At that age, loyalty is very, very thin line. And you can call me a liar, but when you're in college and you have a significant other, if they're not living in that same town, loyalty is a very thin line. Especially if you're intoxicated or you're using drugs or whatever. You have those, it's cold outside, let's kind of hang out and warm each other up type things. It's not really cheating in your eyes, because at that point you're not really serious with your person, I don't think. But let's say Brian had a crush on Dylan. How they would have crossed paths, don't ask me. I'm just throwing this out there because that's what I'm talking about in here. Okay? Let's say that he was trying to impress one of the two roommates that lived. And for some reason, now I'm sounding like some of those other creators. I hate it. But I have to talk this way because that's what this dude is saying 9 months ago. But then you hear about how bad they treat you, or how bad you hate the dog, or how bad you dislike the fact that you're younger and they're telling you what to do and they're always up in your business and all this and that and the other. Would it be enough to kill them? No. But if you were with somebody in immediate circle and somebody had a crush on you and you don't even really know it, would that be enough for you to commit a crime so that they could say, well, thank you. You did something that I wanted to do, but I didn't ask you to do it. Thank you for taking them out. And not only did you take them out, you took two other people out. And I know that sounds silly, but how many times do you hear about this when the husband wants the wife killed and the person who he's having an affair with gets jealous and ends up killing the wife because she wants the person to herself? You get what I'm saying? So don't act like it doesn't happen. Don't act like, I could use this guy because we both get high, we have a good time, blah, blah, blah. And he takes me the wrong way and he's like infatuated with me and he ends up killing my roommates. I really didn't think he'd take it that far. I didn't think he was that type of guy. And I know that sounds insane. I'm going to put a speculation on that one because I have no factual information to back that up whatsoever. But after all, this is for entertainment purposes, right? Nothing else. These are just my thoughts and my opinions. Let's see what Allie has to say, and then I'll get back to the video. She said, I don't think he was an incel, but when he used to go to the bar to ask women, do they live alone, will make a woman uneasy, and that's why he was kicked out of the bar. Okay. Does anyone think they will mute Dylan and Bethany's testimony when they're on the stand? I don't think so. I don't think so. I hope not, but I suppose it's possible. I think the speculation and accusations will be much worse if they do, of course. I mean, at one particular point, they have to let us know what happened in this case. They don't have to, but it's getting to the point of the OJ type case, and I don't know if y'all remember that case, but it was very, very volatile. But there's my theory, and I'm about to talk on it. So I wanted to go ahead and speak on it right now and kind of break it down. Even if it doesn't make sense, it's kind of like, when you're younger and you have a friend that's just a female, but you have a crush on her, and she's telling you how bad her boyfriend treats her or how bad her parents treat her. Hell, I did a live on a girl that was married or that had a boyfriend that was talking about how bad her mom and dad treated her. He walked in there and blasted both of them for her. So I mean, it happens. Did it happen here? I don't know. I seriously doubt it, but you just never know. Because there's something to be said about acceptance. There's something to be said about feeling desired or accepted. Birds of a feather flock together. I don't know about you, but Dylan just doesn't give off the vibe that she was very close to this net of people. Bethany doesn't either. You can tell it in the pictures. They're smiling, but there's just something about, it might be because they're younger that the older roommates, tended to treat them like kids. When you're young and you don't want to be treated like a kid or you don't want to be treated like a house bee or something like that, I mean, it's going to aggravate you. And if you know somebody has a crush on you and you are doing drugs together, I've thought that too, truth. I mean, I thought that too. But if you're gonna not be the one that pulls the trigger, but yet you get this lovesick puppy over here to pull the trigger for you, I didn't know nothing about it. He said something about it, but I thought he was crazy. Didn't she know his description right down to a T? 5'10" or taller, athletic, not muscular, bushy eyebrows, clad in black, walked with a pimp limp. I'm just saying, I'm going to go with that for a little bit. Then you don't have to believe it. I'm not trying to push anything else out there, but that's what this 12 gauge is about to talk about. So don't throw tomato cans at them. Unfounded. But if there was a problem with the other roommates, he could have been the one who steps up and be the savior. Well, let me take care of him for you. I don't like that type of person, anyways. You and I have been hanging out. Your boyfriend's not in town. The other one, Bethany, you just never really heard of a boyfriend. Maybe it was impressing one or two by doing the dirty work. Because in the criminal logic of things, if your mind is not clear, women manipulate men. And if you say no, that's not true, then I'll call your bluff. I really will. Because they manipulate men through sexual desire.
Ooh.
Or promises of.
What do y'all think about that, Chad? Do women or men manipulate each other? Do men and women manipulate each other and use sex as a bargaining tool?
So if this individual, Mr. Koberger, allegedly was not very good with the women, and he had to derive a life from afar on the internet, if he did manage to input himself into the surviving roommates' lives, then maybe that gave him a sense of belonging, acceptance. Because one thing that I've heard, and here's more speculation, because it's unfounded, it's just people talking, is if you've ever lived with somebody, if you've ever had a roommate, or you shared a house with family or whatever, there comes a time when people outstay their welcome. They start to get on each other's nerves. They start to have the same issues over and over. And there's a lot of things that happen that many people may or may not have been aware of. So if there were some witnesses in this case, 400 to be exact, then maybe you're going to hear about some disagreements from the surviving roommates with the roommate that were passed away. Maybe you're going to hear about cat fights. Things that happened that nobody knew about. Only the surviving roommates and the ones that passed away.
Y'all remember that now, right? There was supposedly going to be 400 witnesses. It's funny how we don't talk about that no more. We don't talk about those. We don't talk about that anymore. But supposedly there's going to be 400 witnesses. I mean, it just is interesting.
And here's a question that I've never really heard answered either or even asked. I've heard it from newscasters and stuff, but not really the online community. So I'm going to go ahead and throw it out there.
there's never really been a question as why or what caused Ethan to be staying over there with Anna. He had his golf clubs over there. He had his belongings over there. He was there the night of the murders. Was it to protect her? Was it to protect himself? Was he trying to escape something that was going on at the Sigma Chi house that he didn't want to be a part of? What caused him to stay over there as much? I know if I had a girlfriend in college, which I did, she would come to my off campus home, so I guess it's logical. And she would stay the night and she wouldn't sleep in the dorms or, any of that. So yeah, it's logical. But all of a sudden, I mean, it just makes no sense.
See, I sounded
But I'm
like
sure one day it will.
major.
One day when the trial is here,
It makes no
all of
sense.
this will make sense.
It's just so weird.
We'll get those answers that we've been asking all these months. Supposedly Xana had her dad come look at the lock due to people going through her room and stuff. What was it in her room that people were constantly going in and messing with?
That's an interesting
In the
concept right
pictures,
there because we've all seen the pictures, we've all seen the TikToks, we've all seen the videos. It seemed like there wasn't ever a time where there was not people roaming through the house at all times. We've seen the pictures, we've seen the videos. So to say that she wanted a different lock because there was something missing from her room or somebody had grabbed something, whatever the statement might have been, that's interesting right there because that would be like saying, I always have a party and I leave the door open even when I'm not here and people just walk in and out at leisure. But yet I want to suddenly lock my door because things are coming up missing. I don't know how much truth there was into that statement, but that was said at the very beginning. Um, yeah, you're right. I mean, it's interesting to me that all this
that have been that are on the internet, that are on their social medias, the rooms look
so
like
distorted.
a setup for selfies, a setup for party photos, just a setup for a backdrop for something to shoot a picture of, with a background. So what was it that was being taken or messed with in her room? So she had to get her lock changed or lock fixed or whatever because she was tired of people going through her stuff. That's totally understandable.
And one of the biggest questions nobody really asked as far as this case is concerned, and I hope we do find this out in trial, whether those freaking doors were locked. You know, was Maddie and was Maddie's door open? Was it locked? Was it kicked in? Was Xana's door locked? Any of that? That's interesting that you use that word, Bo. Who were you talking about? Brian? So I've always been wondering if those doors were locked, if they're open,
if they were even something that the individual had to overcome in order to get into that place. Nothing to say? I mean, that's kind of a bold statement to just come in here and drop that. The word moron comes to mind. Well, I don't know who you're talking about, but hopefully it's not me or my thoughts because you won't be here very long if you talk to me like that. I hope that you know that. You're more than welcome to stay, but if you're calling me names, you won't be here very long. So, intent. We've never been told whether Maddie's door was unlocked. We've never been told if Kaylee's door was unlocked the next morning when they found a dog in there. Or did some of the friends know the lock numbers and assisted in getting the emergency first responders in there to assist the dog? You know, the front door was obviously open. Everybody could see as they walked past that the door was open. So that wasn't a big deal, I guess, because it was wide open. Who opened it? Who knows? How long had it been open? Who knows? And they've never really discussed what happened to the DoorDash delivery. Was it left on the doorstep? Was it in the house? Was it in Xana's room? Because I don't believe that the Jack in the Box bag that the whole world is seeing on the counter, I don't believe that's the DoorDash delivery. I don't believe that they would have left it there being such important evidence that they would have just left it on the counter with a Starbucks cup and all that other stuff. You would think that they'd go through it seeking fingerprints, DNA, all that good stuff. Thank you for that, Truth. Appreciate you having my back and the rest of you. There's no place for all that in here. Name calling is not allowed. We're adults, not children. But getting back to the Jack in the Box bag, as I was just saying right there, you know, there. I don't believe that that Jack in the Box bag was actually the DoorDash delivery. Everything in me doesn't believe that because of the tag and bag process. I believe that if that was part of the crime scene, that would have been bagged up. If it wasn't, then that was possibly contaminated. And if it was contaminated, then they probably didn't use it for evidence. Because that's some of the stuff that I think about as far as the understanding of this case is was there a lot of evidence that was contaminated due to not knowing about these certain clues until later on, and you moved this stuff without realizing that you were moving evidence. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think about that a lot when I think about this case. Was there any shoe prints that were left in the kitchen? They said they found one latent shoe print, one. But if you believe that, then I got some oceanfront property in Arizona. I think a lot of individuals believe what has been told to them as concrete. Why would the cops lie? Well, cops lie. Not that I'm anti police here, but as I've been reading in my workbook, There was a chapter that stated, sometimes police embellish information or they keep information from the public so that they're kind of holding what they know and what they don't know. They're going to put a little bit out there. It's like a poker game. You don't want everybody to know what you have, and maybe they're going to give you some stuff that you didn't have based on something that you said. I hope that makes sense. So the fact that they said, we just have one latent shoe print. We didn't have any more shoe prints anywhere in the house. Remember the night before there was a party of 150 plus people in that house? Where did all their shoe prints go? Where did all that DNA go?
I just realized something. I've never realized that until I just saw myself do that. Detective John used to do that. I picked up and stole one of his deals. He used to, like, when he wanted to make a point, he got really close to the microphone and did this. I didn't realize where I got that from. And I just saw myself do it. And I do it all the time. And I'm like, where the hell did I get that? Because it doesn't really, it doesn't do anything different. They can still hear you. But Detective John used to do that. And I stole it from him. So I'm going to give him credit for that. Yeah, that is a Detective John move. Detective John, if you watch this later on or you hear anything about this, that's your move, bro. I had to steal it. I don't know how I stole it, but that's all you. That's all you. Yeah. But yeah, I was just talking about the party they had supposedly the night before. And once again, this is 9 months ago, okay? This is not tonight. This is not yesterday information. This is not the day before information. This is 9 months ago. And the reason that I'm bringing this up is to show you how much things have evolved regarding old theories, old thoughts. Because sometimes you have to be shown how things progress or regress. And that's why I'm bringing this up. So they had supposedly 125 people at that residence the night before. And one thing that's always bugged me about this case as well is that many people on a Saturday night, but the night that these kids were murdered, nobody came through that house like unexpected. Nobody came to smoke a blunt with Dylan, or nobody came to hang out and talk about their night with Bethany or Kaylee or Maddie. Nobody came over. Nobody just walked in. Nobody during that time period. Nobody that we know of entered that house when supposedly this house was rocking around the clock. So you get what I'm saying? How did that happen? How did that happen? If one night you have all these people over and then the night of the murder, crickets. Crickets. How does that happen? Because I don't know about you, but that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. If we're rocking and rolling the night before, but the next day, or the night of the murder, nobody's rocking and rolling in that house. Hell, Hunter's there 24/7, it looks like. He wasn't in the house. Every time there was a policeman showing up, who did we see coming out? Hunter. Not Ethan's brother, the other Hunter. But he wasn't in that house that night. Where was he at? There was two random dudes in that house where nobody was there while they were at the corner club, while they were, wherever. But the night of the murders, not one damn student went into that house. There's nobody that accidentally walked into that place, and Dylan didn't hear them. Bethany didn't hear them. There's not a group of friends that walked in and then walked right out. I mean, these type of things I want to know. These are some of the things that I want to know. Because that's where my mind goes. It's like, okay, if it was rocking and rolling like everybody says, and everybody that's a creator has even spoke on, how did it go from such a hopping place to crickets? Only the people that lived there supposedly were in the house. There was nobody else there that was hanging with Dylan, hanging with Bethany. There was nobody partying a little bit late night, talking about the night or talking about the football game or any of this stuff. I know it was 4 a.m., but still, Moscow looked like it never slept. There was people walking around by dumpsters. There were people driving around next to dumpsters. There were people, driving up to an apartment complex, getting out, beating on a sign. It just seemed like, I don't know. It's interesting to me that nobody happened to walk into that home and discover these murders before 12 p.m. Nobody walked into that home at all. Just Dylan and Bethany stayed in their room for the entire time, and nobody just managed to walk through that place and not see anything. They were hammered by 12. They didn't do coke. Well, supposedly they did Molly, so that's a derivative. MDMA will keep you up unless they were doing GHB. I mean, I know, I understand it. I'm just in my mind, it doesn't make sense that they're such a party house that I mean, unless they said don't come over after 3 in the morning. I mean, I don't know what the hours were. I don't know. I don't know what the hours of the house were. I mean, it's just interesting to me, and I'm not trying to create other rabbit holes. I'm just telling you what I think about certain things. Do you really believe that the motive was just to kill these individuals and be done with it? Or was there an intent to build up and eventually that became the motive? I'm going to intend to get even with you. I'm going to intend to scare you. I'm going to intend to show you your wrongs. I'm going to intend to get revenge. I'm going to intend to get my money from you. I'm going to intend to just kill you. That's true. That's true, Paula. Because you have a belief that you're better than me, and in my mind, no one is better than me, so therefore I'm going to show you by my motive of killing you, my beliefs. Once they dig into Brian's history, what they already probably did, they see a lot of patterns there. One thing that you fail to understand is we are creatures of habit. So whatever we've done in our lifetime, it usually comes back in another way, either as explosive or maybe not as problematic, but the best precursor of future experience is past mistakes. Come on, Gage. You will always repeat.
History repeats itself.
Right.
So you ask yourself, okay, well, what was his intent? What was his intent? What was he intending on proving? Maybe his intent was to prove that he could do this. And his motive was, I got rid of the people that I singled out to take out in the story. The gashes don't match. The bodies were repositioned. I've done videos on this. Do you really think that somebody who's going to kill somebody is not going to think about all this? If it's not a K-bar knife, what kind of knife is it? One that rips and tears. One that you can hold while you're potentially holding or fighting this person off.
See, I'm spitting some facts, but I'm getting annoyed at myself because none of this makes sense anymore. Like, I know a lot more in my mind, so I'm like, dude, give it up. Leave it alone. Move on.
One that's not going to slip. One that's not going to tear your glove. One that's not going to injure you. I heard on a channel, I think it was the Chaos Sector, I'm not sure, because I watch a lot of their stuff. But I'm not sure, so don't quote me. When they were looking at Brian's hands, when it was a month later, and they got pulled over in Indiana, what you didn't see is scars. You didn't see scars on the hand. Look at that scar right there. See that scar? That scar's been there for about 30 something years. So if you've ever been hurt or injured and you had scar tissue build up, that doesn't go away. It turns your skin pigment a different color. And if you're lighter color, you can almost see it as splotchy skin spots or whatever. And it was a month that went by before he was apprehended. And in that month, do you think that they were just going on what we've focused on as far as the PCA and Linda Lane footage and Taylor Avenue footage and the noises that you hear and the presumption that this person saw this person at this time, the Banfield cam, all this stuff that people have been focusing on. And as I say, there's nothing wrong with that. But when you're creating a case to try somebody for the death penalty, you're going to want some solid, connect the dot, factual, non circumstantial evidence. They may rid the IgG stuff, the DNA stuff, they might throw that away because it's too much of a hassle. The pings on the towers, they might not even need it. But if they got his car on camera,
Hey, John, was your ears ringing? I stole a move from you, buddy. Remember when you used to make a comment and you get really close to the mic like this? I noticed that I do that in some of my some of my videos, and I was like, where did I get that from? And then I was watching one of your videos, and whenever you make a point, you get really close. Giving you props. Hope you're doing good. And you're right. I don't know why it's hard to believe that a person could have committed these murders and not hurt themselves.
I don't know why it's hard to believe that either. But this video is 9 months old, so you know, awesome, man, awesome. Hey, I wasn't making fun of you. I was giving you credit because I saw myself in the video go, if you don't, there was 150 people at the party the night before. And then I thought to myself, damn, John used to do that. So I was giving you props. So glad you're here, bro. Glad you're here. Um, they have him anywhere on camera at that time frame, especially dressed in black with a mask covering his mouth and nose, and all you could see is the bushy eyebrows. That's almost as good as the smoking gun. Because how can you explain being in that neighborhood for what other reason than to either get drugs, use drugs, or attend a party? I don't know very many people other than Elliot Rodger.
Hope
I
it
didn't
made
even
you
know
laugh.
him, but based on what I've studied about him, he's the only one that I've really noticed that documented. He rode around looking and envying people for their lifestyles. Now, if Brian's an incel like they say he is, then possibly he would ride around to feed his anger, to relinquish his wrath upon humanity once he reached that point of the plan. One more thing that I've always thought about, because I've listened to countless serial killer interviews and read PCAs, and I've studied a little bit on serial killers. I'm not an expert by no means, but one thing that you never hear this was a crime of passion. You never hear, just like that lady said in that video a while ago, maybe he was dissed. I've never heard a news anchor use that word dissed before, but maybe he was dissed. And she said dissed for other reasons, for just being who he is. Now use your logical brain, not the speculatory brain, not the facts that you don't have. Man, which isn't very much, because there's so conflicting reports. He was a bully, he got bullied, this, that, and the other. He didn't know how to interact with women. He got two women's phone numbers. He was friendly. He was cuddly. He was trustworthy. He was this, that. We're all that. How many one-dimensional people do you know? We're chameleons at best. Just because I'm friendly to you doesn't mean that I might not bully another person. Call them out their name. Make their life
I don't know
so
what
than I
it's
am. Not the friendly guy that's going to do anything for you. But it's annoying a little bit whenever people put
Okay, let me stop it. I don't know why it's free. So let me ask you some questions here. Since we're talking about this individual, we're talking about this crime. That was 9 months ago, and that's so far removed from the person mentality that I am today. Have I really thought differently? Yes, I do. Have I really put together more analytical type criminal justice type stuff to the crime? Yes, I have. At that point, I didn't have a clue what I was talking about pretty much. I'm just spitting out stuff out my ass. But now it makes a lot more sense that
I don't ride with all these conspiracies. I don't ride with all the what if, what could have, what would have. Is there a possibility? I don't ride with that. There has to be an investigative process that happened that morning, and it continued on until they got the evidence that they needed in order to build a case, in order to write the probable cause affidavit, to get it signed by a judge, in order to get an arrest warrant for him. At that point, the PCA would just use for that. You know, Koberger didn't want a speedy trial. He wanted this lengthy thing that's become 2 years now and some change. And through the whole process, we've heard hearing after hearing about supposed debunking of evidence that they may or may not have. Do people ever wonder that they could be talking about the discovery information that they've yet to have, or maybe the pieces that they don't have because it hasn't been handed over, or maybe these are just theatrics to just buy time for her client? Because if you were facing the death penalty, wouldn't you want time? Wouldn't you want time to create the best defense you could for yourself? And I was talking to somebody earlier, and this may sound foolish, but sometimes I believe that Mr. Koberger is running his own defense and he's just telling Ann what to say. I know that's probably foolish and, probably isn't true, but he just seems so smug. I can't really read him any other way because he doesn't do anything when he's sitting in front of us. You know? Yeah. I always think, what if I was him and I'm alone, home now? Can I prove I didn't know someone too? One thing for certain is whenever you ask somebody, other than the presumption of innocence, what is it that makes you believe that this man is innocent? What is it that makes you really believe? Paint me a picture that makes you believe without a reasonable doubt that this man is innocent, other than the stuff that you've heard other creators say. You don't like the mainstream media, so therefore you down them every chance you get. You don't like law enforcement. You don't like the government. You don't like laws and rules and all this other stuff. But yet you believe that anytime someone's arrested, they're instinctively innocent. Even if you have video evidence of the person committing the crime, like what we have with the latest friend. We have video of him shooting the guy. But yet we still have creators that are already pushing the seed of doubt. Did they get the wrong guy? That doesn't look like him. Those pictures don't match. Those eyebrows don't match. There's no way that could be him. They're setting him up. Did the government make the 3D ghost gun? They're the only people that could really do that. Nobody else has the technology to make a ghost gun. They're framing this poor innocent guy who has a degree and all this other stuff. There's no way he could have done it. You know? That's gonna be the next one. And they're already interviewing every friend he knew. And the friends are like, oh my God, I was shocked. There's no way that I thought that this person could do this. Did we hear those types of interviews with Mr. Koberger? Was there one freaking interview where one of those friends
that came out and talked for him, did one of those people stand up and say, "Holy shit, I am I'm flabbergasted. There's no way Brian could have did this. He is not that kind of guy. He is this guy and he is that guy and he's a great leader and he's this and he's that and he's this and he's that." Not one. Not one. Is that why people are so up in arms to want to defend him because they feel that he has no one in his corner? Y'all know how I feel about it. I mean, I'm not denying it one way or the other, you know? I've I've kind of wavered, in the last 9 months. Obviously, I was delusional, spitting speculation just like everybody else and using those words like everybody else. That is odd. That doesn't make sense. How could you really have that happening to a person like him? He was a PhD student. Well, you can root for the underdog, but you know what? Murderers, killers, rapists, they do exist. And they do commit crimes and they do hurt innocent people just because they want to. I showed a video last night of this guy walking up on this 81-year-old lady and sucker punching her for no reason. And he ran off. He's yet to be caught. I believe that too, Detective John. I believe that. But without order, we have chaos. You know? Yeah. Murdahl was a lawyer, right? Why would somebody who has all that prestige and money just throw away their lives by murdering somebody? That doesn't make sense. But yet we want to paint a picture where everybody in that town is guilty. Everybody known to man has something to do with this murder. Everybody. You painted that poor town in such an image that I'd hate to live there. I'd go after you if I lived there and I could defend myself against what was being said. Because some of these people, they have thrown people under the bus, including law enforcement officers, either past or present. I mean, that is a bold statement to even think the police were creating a diversion so that the killer could get in and out, kill these people, and then that was the end of it. Police was creating a diversion. You know how dumb that sounds? Well, it's more than your phone being off. I mean, it's more than your phone being off. There's a lot more evidence that's going to tie him to this. There's 100, what was it, 113 physical evidence. All the digital stuff. But yet people want to punch holes in that. That it's not real. It's made up. He's being framed. Yeah. I mean, sometimes you just get tired of people bashing your town, you know?
And all these kids that were in college in 2022, it is now 2024, most of them had graduated. And you see them coming forward with all this valuable information about cartels and Aryan brotherhoods and, frat brothers and all this stuff. They don't have to hide no more. They're graduated. Most of them probably moved away. To be honest, and this is in all honesty, YouTube is the only place that I get on where people are talking about this case nonstop. I even saw a creator say, there's people that just blow this up every day, blow this up in the mainstream media. You don't hear this in the mainstream media. You don't hear about this case unless it's the anniversary or somebody's birthday or, one of the victim birthdays or something like that, or there's about to be a court date. You don't hear about it. YouTube is the only place where you get on every day and there's something being said about something that was said at the very beginning, just like what I did tonight. Because when I talk about something else, the bar is empty. I talk about this case, the bar fills up. Do you get what I'm saying? Yeah, you should write a book, John. Me, I'll be glad. I'll be glad when a trial is here and we hopefully get to see the evidence and we get to see the process work itself out and we finally get a verdict and the judge, did the jury has the jury reached a verdict? And then the foreman reads the verdict. You know? And then we're going to hear guilty or not guilty. And then the whole world's going to go crazy. Can you imagine being Dylan or Bethany having to relive this madness after 2 years of trying to get your life back in order? Finally having a sense of a life, and then all of a sudden you got to go appear in court once again and relive something that was 2 years ago and try to remember it the best you can. you know, they're just going to rip those scabs right off those wounds. And I hope that they have a strong support system. I really do. Because they're going to need it. Because it can't be easy to be thrust into the spotlight yet again after you trying to be just normal like everyone else. Kind of curious what the conspiracies are going to be for this. What's his name? Louis Mangione or something like that? Louis Mangione? Something? Luigi Mangione? Something? I don't know what his name is. This guy is rowdy for sure. Did you see that footage when they arrested him? He was like yelling to the cameras. He's enjoying this. Yeah, people think he's a hero. One of his social media pages went up to 2.2 million people in one day. No, he is not. Luigi is acting kind of like I always figured Brian would. But there's a difference in these two. you know? It's interesting how people are already starting to try to match up. I saw something earlier that said two people from Pennsylvania commit a crime out of state and they both have bushy eyebrows. Is this a coincidence? Or is there something that links them together? It's already began. They're going to start. I almost guarantee it. There's going to be a creator that somehow finds a trail to Mangione to Idaho in 2022 that places him in the area where he could have been the one. Because did you see him? He was wearing a surgical mask. That's he matches the description Dylan gave. Wasn't you? I'm glad. I'm glad. Bushy-eyed killers are drawn back to Pennsylvania for some reason. You're right. You're right. I mean, it's interesting to me how people are already starting to go down that rabbit hole, start digging a new one. Like we got to stay relevant. We got to somehow incorporate how Mangione kidnapped Sebastian and he flew them to Idaho, stored Sebastian in a tunnel while he went in with Brian, did the murders, grabbed Sebastian on the way out, flew back to Pennsylvania, and then they have him hidden out somewhere. Really? Oh, that's interesting. Luigi gives us a nice visual of bushy eyebrows behind the mask. Shine is good, vibes light on them, and you start to get a clear picture. Just don't a woman she has good birthing hips on the first date. Yeah. Maybe that's the best pickup line he had. Hey baby, by the way, you have great birthing hips. Too bad I wasn't able to see them. I mean, it's interesting to me, but yeah, Brian, Thompson, Fry, Pennsylvania, eyebrows, intelligent. You forgot one. They're both incarcerated now. Yeah, I hope we really learn how that happened. Did you see somebody's theory? They said that those bags that it's essentially this. It's a bag that you carry a sandwich in that like the pizza bag that you keep the pizza hot in. You can put a cell phone in there and it like disrupt the signal from your cell phone and it can't be read or something like that. That's what he did. That's what he did. He stuffed his Since he was the DoorDash driver, he stuffed his phone in the pizza bag, zipped it up. Or no, before he zipped it up, he wrapped it up in Reynolds wrap and stuffed it in the pizza bag. And that's how the signal was unable to be located anywhere. This is an interesting comment. I'm enjoying this, by the way. Someone read the article of BK's sister. She wrote the security guy gave him the knife with the white powder on it while looking at some girl sitting in a car. Interesting. I've never heard that. I'm glad you can't because that's the kind of stuff that I hear and I'm like, yeah, okay. So next time I don't want to be located, I'm going to wrap my phone in Reynolds wrap and stick it in a pizza bag, and that'll keep people from being able to locate my phone. Do you think that'll work? I can't. I'm a terrible liar. I mean, somebody asked me a question, I cannot lie. I mean, I used to could, but not anymore. It's like, you're right. Yeah, I did it. I did it. I ate the last piece of candy. You're right. How much do I owe you? I mean, it's just terrible for that community. I feel bad for that community because of the people, the students, the past students that have been dragged through the mud on social media, the parents, all the people that have become enemies to people that don't believe this person committed this crime, but claim to be doing it for justice for the four. But yet, how can you be going for justice for the four if you're fighting for innocence of someone who's in custody for the crime? It doesn't make sense. Stay out of my gummies. Stay out of your gummies. You're right. You probably heard my gummy story. Me and gummies, we do not get along. No, don't have to worry about that. But like many people say, I'm not here to bash or trash anyone. I'm just giving you my opinion. And this is this is the best that I got. I didn't even really give an opinion tonight. I did give a lot of speculation, but you know, I didn't sign up to solve this case. That's not my expertise. I can get into the mindset and I can get into the psyche and I can get into the criminology of it, but as far as doing the police work, that's not my expertise. I've never been a policeman. I'll never be a policeman, not because of anything against them. It's just not something that I've ever been, wanting to do. I've always wanted to catch, profile, do all that stuff. But, got a late start in life, so here we are. I had a guy call me a moron in chat. Thank you for handling that, Truth. That was interesting. I couldn't get which one he was calling a moron, Koberger, myself, or Gage from 9 months ago. So, thank you for handling that. But I think I'm just rambling at this point. Dr. Vona, I'm glad that you finally got your tire fixed and you got out of that situation. Had I been in the area, I would have went and helped you. I hope that you were able to get home safely. Sounded like a very distressful situation. Wow, $400 later. See, I would have done it for 400. No, I would have helped you out. Jeff's not far from you. Jeff could have drove up from where he's at. He could have went and helped you out. What would it take for you to take your crime education and use it for evil like we're insinuating that BK did? I can tell you honestly, Jeff, before I got sober and before I started on my journey of enlightenment, I could have seen myself on the other side of the coin. I could have seen myself on the other side. I had that anger, I had all that impulsiveness, I had all that stuff a killer probably need to do it. And I don't know. I bet somebody was praying pretty hard for me. Like they say, have you ever seen that meme with the guardian angel and it said, "This is my guardian angel on most days," and the guardian angel's like leaning forward like this, like, "Holy shit, I got to do this again." I believe we're all, you know, not one of us is incapable of doing what he did if he did it. But I believe in some cases it doesn't take very much. Somebody's already damaged enough that it doesn't take a lot. Like Elliot Rodger, he was damaged beyond belief and he had everything going for him. But he could not break that obsessive cycle of wanting to get laid, wanting to have a girlfriend. That was the most important thing to him. It would have been interesting, like somebody said, if he would have ever gotten that, what would it have been next? Because usually that's how it goes. You're fixated on something, you get it, and then you throw it away, and then it's on to the next thing. So it's never about one thing. It's always about having it all, if that makes sense. No, he never tried to talk to others. He wanted it to just come to him. He just wanted people to just present it to him, like, here I am, Elliot, let's go do this. And he never tried. How old would BK have been when his sister was filming that knife slashing movie? Was he there to observe? I think he was like 14 years old at that point. But I don't know. Can you expand on that thought, Truth? Because I hear a lot of people say that. People who say BK committed this crime with another person tripped me out. See, I thought it was two teams at the very beginning. I'm not going to lie to you. I thought that these people were taken out by two different sets of teams. Like, these people killed these people and these people killed these people at different times of the night. That's what I was thinking at the very beginning. It's kind of going with the drug angle, but, then I got to really thinking a lot clearer. But if a 14-year-old witnesses this kind of thing and maybe pleasures themselves over elements of it, maybe I'm way off. If he had the ability to connect to another human, he would not have to do it. Yeah? Want to hang out later and go commit a quadruple? Come on. It'll be fun. I got you a pair of Dickies. That's exactly how I hear it. Yes. I mean, how about this one? We're sitting there cutting up cocaine with the K-bar knife on your hood. This dude gets so high, he starts going to peep in the windows. And then he goes into the house. I freak out. I burn off and leave him there. Next thing I know, there's a quadruple homicide. And that could have been me. That's interesting, John. I think she spoke on that a little bit, not very in depth, but I think she spoke on that a little bit in the first live that we did together. Any chance that Catherine Ramsland remembers any red flags with her interaction with BK? I don't think she's at liberty to say. No, no, I got the coke shit. We had to go in that house. No, because he took her online. Okay. I didn't know that. I thought he sat in her class. But yet she experienced him as being one of the one of the brightest people she's ever had, and she recommended him to Washington. I teach university online and in person, and I don't interact as much with the online students. No, it was COVID. Are any red flags noticed by the author of Handmaid's Tale event he went to? She had the greatest papers. That wasn't her. I had a professor this semester that I've had prior, and I was so thankful. I was like, man, this dude's not that hardcore. And then I saw his name and I was like, holy shit, I've had him at the beginning of all my courses. He's a cool dude, man. He's fair, but he's not one of those hardcore graders that just wants to see you fail. I've had some professors in here lately that just want to try to fail you. And I'm like, why didn't you try to fail me at the beginning, not at the end? I mean, I'm almost done. Let me make it. Come on. The teacher that referred him was someone else. Dr. Vona, would you opine on the test? Very interesting topic for where we are right now. Come on, panel, and talk about it. Jeff, she will write a 74th book. It's written in June. That's not me. Ramplin can have her and Rule moment. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, John, we're hopefully after both of us get through with the semester, we're thinking about doing the dark triad. We're thinking about doing the antisocial versus psychopath stuff. We're gonna do a lot of stuff. It just right now we're both really in the last part of our semester, so I know I can't really do a longer live than I've done. But but we've talked about it and we're in the process of getting that done. So that would be something interesting to talk about. I like that. I like that. Well, I really don't have anything else to talk about. I've really enjoyed you guys being here. I've enjoyed your comments in the chat. And believe it or not, I enjoy hanging out with you guys. Um, I really do. And I enjoy that, my mods had my back tonight, even though I was about to I was about to grab him and let him know what was up. You're gonna go get live for the first time? All right, go jump on your panel and then I'll listen. Sounds great. All righty, you guys take care and I'll see y'all soon. As I always say, can you dig it? Can you dig it? If you can't dig it, get yourself a bigger shovel. Maestro, cue that music.